So anyway, with that, let me kick it off and Stephanie get started.
All right, let me see if I can use this. All right, so let's first start by talking about your data and using it to your competitive advantage. So data is just not a function of marketing and sales. If you think about it, data exists throughout your organization. Obviously, it's important right now in this economy that we're in that you know your customers. I mean, they're providing you with more data than ever before, and they expect you to know what they want and what their needs are. But it's also important to understand, outside of marketing and sales, how you should service those customers and prospects, both from an operational and product standpoint. From an operational standpoint, think about it. Your high-value customers, maybe there's communications, maybe there's products, services, offerings that you have that are going to them today that really they don't value. Maybe there's support that you're providing to your low-value customers right now that you really shouldn't be. Maybe you should eliminate or definitely decrease those resources to those low-value customers. From a product standpoint, it's important to understand who your high-value customers are so it can drive your product with the product evolution in terms of what those customers' needs are and how the product should evolve in terms of the enhancements and the functionality. So the point here is that data exists across your organization, and you should think about data as the central nervous system of your organization. If you do that, and it affects all aspects of the organization, you can become, very, very competitive. And in fact, if you can pull this off, you're using data to your advantage, and you're going to differentiate from your competition. In this slide, I want to talk about how, with the sophisticated usage of data, how it can lead to significant results. Think about it, look at these results. Baseline, 2x, 3x. Maturity and sophistication can be a big lever in terms of results that you can achieve. All organizations have some type of data. Some have a little bit, some have tons. But it's how you collect the data and having the right amount of data and the right data in general and how we take action on that data. That's what's going to lead to results. If you look at this diagram from bottom to top, you see how the data matures. It moves to information, to insight, to knowledge. We all know that knowing our customers is very important. It's powerful. It's intelligence, and customer intelligence leads to significant results. I'm going to turn it over to Dan, who's going to talk to you about these large volumes of data that exist today, the term big data.
Turn off this mic, this one's better. All right, so now we talk a little bit about how important data is, and knowing your customer is really the root of that. It's that personalized experience and the theme of doing more with less. The more you know about them, the more targeted your marketing and your customer communication can be, and that's going to yield bigger results. But no big data conversation or presentation cannot have a couple of statistics and definitions. These are a couple I thought were interesting. The first one, in terms of what is big data, is really defining it in terms of its velocity. And that's a pretty staggering look. 90% of the data in the world today has been created in the last 2 years. That shows that it's a hockey stick. It's growing at an exponential rate. So it's really overwhelming. The second definition I picked off was interesting because it defines big data in terms of how hard it is to process, right? If it crosses certain thresholds, you can't use certain technologies anymore that you're used to using, it's defining big data that way. And that's actually pretty interesting and pretty practical. On the other hand, there's nothing completely new. Big data is a big buzzword right now. But, we've had big data for a while. We just didn't call it that. The thing is, it's growing at such a rate that it's crossing thresholds, and that's what's significant about it. So where does it come from? Sean talked a lot about that mobile experience. Well, that's, part of what they call that solo mode, social or mobile. Social networking, people consuming social content, creating it. That's a big deal. It's so easy to create content. Anybody can do it, and anybody can do it no matter where they are, because they've got a content creator on their body at all times. Location awareness has always been important. We always want to know where people are, where they live, where they shop, because you want to make relevant offers. But it takes it to the new level, because now we can tell where you are at any given moment. I've just driven past a Starbucks and I got a text message that said there's some sale on some grande latte, whatever that is. And the mobile device itself is capturing and generating a lot of data. So it's all digital, and it's a lot of data. It's big data. Transactions have been around for a while. We didn't call it big data, but the stock market generates huge data. It has for years and years. Financial services, retail banking. Stephanie and I used to work on a system that did abnormal behavior detection on financial transactions. They didn't call it big data back then, but it seemed pretty darn big. And sensors and machine-to-machine is another category of sort of emerging, growing big data. Sensors, a good example of that would be the utilities industry. There used to be a thing called Smart Grid 1.0. That's where meters on your home are capturing and sending data to a central location. You can imagine that's generating a lot of data, where your energy consumption is. Smart Grid 2.0 takes it to where actually the appliances in your house, your hot water heater, your heating and cooling units are actually have smart chips and are sending data to a central location. And it goes even further in that scenario to analyze that data and then send signals back to be able to control the devices. So that's like a consumer marketing play, right? You want people to opt into that, and then you can very intelligently help them manage their consumption. It's good for you if you have to manage power as a utilities company, brownouts, things like that. It's good for the consumer. I think Sean mentioned a little bit about that. Hey, what if Bob has lower consumption? Network events are another example of the machine-to-machine thing. Every time you send a text message, it's got to get from AT&T to Verizon, and there's all this network mediation. We work for Quero, but that's a division of CSG, and CSG is big into all of that network mediation, billing. Every time you make a prepaid phone call, it automatically checks your billing to make sure you've got enough in your account. So that's where this big data is coming from. Why is it important? Why do we care? It's simple, but I think it's interesting. If you look at the big data sources, it's really behavior. It's tracking the behavior of your customers and prospects. So with that kind of data, you know not only what they say, what they report, self-reported data, it's what they're doing. And that's, if you can handle it and you can use it, it's pretty powerful. It's just a concrete example here to ground us. Two things here. One is you can get lost in it. The data's not the end, it's the means to the end. So you have to still have focused business and market goals. Here's a particular example. It's a real one, somewhat anonymized, but it was about gaming. And there was a business problem of the level of engagement of the gamers with the site. And so a hypothesis was developed that says, there's an issue with onboarding. They weren't sure, but we have an issue with onboarding. So here comes big data, right? All of the interactions, every click, every interaction those gamers have with the game and the website. And it's, that's petabytes of data on a popular gaming site. And sure enough, when you looked at it, the gap between the engagement of new gamers was a lot less than established gamers. So it resulted in a new program for onboarding, which had a 60% lift. So the point there was, didn't get lost in the data, had a specific purpose with it, and this couldn't have been done without that detailed level interaction data. So how do we manage this? We talked about why it's important. We talked about big data. Now, how do you deal with it? The first thing is, what do you want to collect? There's different kinds of data out there, but if you're in customer engagement and marketing, you want to find things about your customers. We've got some categories here. Customer attributes, that's things like demographics, firmographics, age, your income, your gender, if it's a business-to-business play, what the number of employees, et cetera, those things. Those are attributes of the customer. And they're very important for just knowing the customer, segmenting. You can do segmentation on that. You can do some level of lookalike modeling. These customers look like these customers. These bought bacon and eggs, but they didn't buy toast. These bought toast and bacon, and you can start to cross-sell with the lookalike modeling. Identification attributes, those are really identify who you are. And the reason that's important is for what we call master data management, which is the technical term behind that 360-degree view of your customer. You're getting data from all these sources. It's at varying levels of quality. You got to link it together if you really want to stitch together that picture with that customer to really know them well. Value attributes, very important. That's where you get into deriving data from data. So you calculate customers' value. We're going to talk a lot about value later, but that's a key thing to know, what the value of your customer, particularly with this theme about doing more with less. You not only want to know your customer, but you want to know what their historic, future, and potential value is, and then you focus your resources on that. Transaction attributes, don't really have to talk much about that. Everybody knows transactions. Interactions, Sean talked a lot about how you interact with loads through the mobile device, and that's prevalent everywhere, so there's all that kind of data. And financial attributes, that's when you take your company's data and mix it in. How much does it cost to send that message? How much does it cost to develop and serve that app? And just a high-level classification, which we'll come back to as we go on here, is there's what we find it useful to categorize profile data and behavior data. And we'll kind of talk about more right now. So here's I warned you about the technical stuff. We can use a laser pointer because it's cool. So there's our classification of data. So at Quero is CSG's arm for marketing analytics, customer engagement. So they look at us as their data analytics arm. And we host these systems. So this is pretty much a picture of the architecture of how we host that data. And I won't go through details because if we go for hours, that would be thrilling, I'm sure. But there's a few things that are important as you sort of enter this world. One is the classification of data, profile data versus behavior data. Why is it important to classify it? Because the profile data can go through sort of the traditional technologies, relational technologies. It's not going to cause a lot of problems. That's where you're figuring out linking data, what your individuals are. Bob is individual 1, Mary is individual 2, and you build your profiles around that. But classifying the behavior data different, this is where the big data comes in. And there's emerging technologies called NoSQL, right? So it's not assuming rows and tables and transactions, OLTP and all those things. This kind of data doesn't need a lot of that. It is what it is. It's I clicked here. You don't really have to do a whole lot with that transactionally. You just got to be able to store it. You got to be able to store it at a fairly low price point. And you got to be able to process it in big aggregations, trends, things like that. And it might sound easy, but when you're talking about, we have one client, we get 500 million records a day, I think. So it's petabytes of data. So simple group buys that you might be used to don't work anymore. So we use Hadoop for that for a couple of reasons. One is it's open source, it's a little lower cost, but it's also expandable and contractable. If you estimate how much infrastructure you're going to need for this data is hard to estimate. It varies so much, it comes at you in waves. If you're wrong, it's easy to expand. You just add nodes to the cluster or contract. So it's very useful for handling this classification of data. This all has to come together, and we call this a MARC. That's not an unfamiliar term. It's all about that 360-degree view, so you got to bring it together, and you have to organize it in a way that will have a low latency response. Right? I can't ask about my customer and have it take long to do that. This is really summarizing some of the things I said, but again, from a very practical point of view, I'll highlight a few things. It's not particularly sexy, but if all this data is flowing into the system, it's going to fill up. So you got to think from the beginning of what your expiration and retention policy is. So somehow, if it's coming in this way, it's going to roll off that way. And that can be tricky. I talked about a lot of this stuff. Synchronization is interesting because when you start to apply specialized technologies to these different classifications of data, Now I've got data here, I've got data here. Somehow I've got to get them synchronized, right? I've got to get these key elements from here, moving here, and vice versa. So just the act of technology agnostic synchronization becomes pretty important. So let's focus on the theme for a while of the, of the event here. I mentioned customer value, and we'll drill in a little bit more, but customer value is key for that. There really is an 80-20 rule. Once you look at customer value, you find out that 20% of your customers provide 80%. It's a classic 80-20 rule, but how do you know, right? So you got to use data, and you've got to do this kind of modeling to figure out who are the most valuable and who have the most potential value. And then it's a classic 80-20 rule. You want to put 80% of your resources into that 20%. Customer value. There's a few dimensions of customer value. The first one is historical value, and that's really just the facts. You get the data, you analyze it, and it's pretty much what have you done, what have you purchased, where have you interacted, that provides value to the customer or to the company. And there's expected value. That's where you're starting to get a little bit more sophisticated. You've got the data all linked, you're running models, predictive models. We forecast that you're going to do this based on your past behaviors. And then there's relative potential value. So that says, that's often done with lookalike models I mentioned earlier. So, here's what you've done in the past, and your value in the past has gone up and down. However, when I compare you to customers that look like you, I can analyze to figure out that, wow, if I as the company had done the right things at the right time, customer experience, the right offers, you could have been that valuable. So you were this valuable, but in many ways you look like Bob, and he was more valuable, so we lost out on that. And then you can take that trend and predict it into the future as well. So you can predict what people will do, sort of if we don't change anything, and then you can predict what they'll do if we do. And it's pretty powerful. Once you get your hands around those different dimensions of customer values, that's where the do more than less value comes in. You can start to act on that. And let's see, one more view of this customer value dimension. There's a level of sophistication curve that goes from left to right. So on the left, you've got qualitative, and on the right, you've got quantitative. It's interesting we talked about the quantitative life, right? We're quantifying everybody's life. It's true. On the left, you've got what's called proxy base, which says, I think that males between 25 and 30 are good customers for sporting goods, right? And you're probably right. It's anecdotal, it's instinctual, that kind of thing. And then, I did it again. As you go across here, you start to actually do the real math. You start to analyze the data, and you begin to quantify it. Finally, out here, you're doing statistical modeling, and you're forecasting and predicting. And so it's a sophistication curve, not unlike the pyramid that we looked at earlier. So, time to tag team. Hopefully that wasn't too dry and technical, but I'm going to turn it back over to Stephanie to take you through an anonymized case study of the real application of the data.
So I'm happy to share this case study with you. It's about one of our largest accounts at Queero, a leading global interactive sports media and entertainment company. I will tell you, this case study, the results that this client has achieved did not happen overnight. It didn't even happen over the course of several months. This is multiple years in the making. And the reason I shared that with you is certainly not to discourage you, but just so you have realistic expectations as you're considering your plans and your decisions and your investments that you'll make, especially from a long-term standpoint. The point is, with this case study, what's really possible with a lot of data, the right data, and most importantly, a mature and sophisticated data management approach. So this client came to us several years back, and they said, I want to know my customers, okay, don't we all? At any point in time or place, I want to know what they're doing, where they're doing it, and I want to serve them better. That's what we all want to do, right? Sounds easy. Well, it's obviously a lot easier said than done. You have to have the data, right? Our theme here, in order to do this, to be able to have the intelligence to serve these customers. So looking over to the right, some of the key highlights of our engagement with this customer. Building a fan database. When I say fan, you'll notice I mentioned interactive sports, media, and entertainment. You all remember the term CRM. No one really says that so much anymore. But this is a spin-off of that, FRM, Fan Relationship Management. And so what we did was we took all their collected data sources from third-party vendors. We ingested that data, built a master database. We also implemented marketing automation. We implemented ad sales, marketing reporting. And then we added analytics to that. We built all kinds of models. We have a vast analytics team. We bought all kinds of models where we want to understand the value, again, the high value, the low value. What are these fans that are coming to this website doing? What are they interested in? What are they, all this activity? What are they clicking on? What are they looking at? How can we sell more ads? And then obviously, lastly, it's all about delivering more programs, building out more products, and ultimately increasing revenue. So we can dive in a little bit deeper. From a data and technology standpoint, again, it's the data collection, the consolidation and integration of that data. And you'll probably mention one of my first slides that I mentioned about, working across the organization. Well, in fact, that's what this database does. Not only does it serve the marketing team from an FRM standpoint, but we're hitting the operations team, the sales team, the product team, accounting, and finance. They are all tapping into this data on a daily basis. From an analytics standpoint, we're understanding the engagement of their fans. How long are they on the site? What are they doing in an average minute? What are they clicking on? Are they looking at videos? Are they looking at display ads? What are additional products we can sell to them? Did they do fantasy baseball last year? Do we think they'll do fantasy baseball again this year? Were they a league manager or just a player? So all kinds of propensity models, value models. How do they, from a platform perspective, transact? Is it mobile? And that's questionable in terms of the channel. Is it all through their iPad, their laptop? How is it that they're doing all the transacting? From a reporting standpoint, of course, executive dashboards. Definitely for our executives, they like the summary level information. We also provided a customer value visualization tool. And what we mean by that is, it's not business objects, it's not MicroStrategy, which is what many of you probably have heard in terms of business intelligence tools. But it's more a simplified way for the marketers to actually get hands-on access to the data. And as they're heading into a meeting, literally, run some queries on that data, get some quick statistics, some quick talking points, and just understand various segments of their data. And then finally, from a strategy standpoint, and if you can think about this, think of, the cupcake, and this is literally, the cherry, the sundae. This is the cherry on top of your sundae. When you're able to apply strategy to your clients, where you know their business so well that you're actually just, completely, your tentacles are out and you're interacting with them daily. You understand their data, their business, their customers, their prospects, how you can bring them more revenue. And you're helping them with their roadmap. What's their future plan? Where do they want to be a year from now? Where do they want to be 2 years from now? Where do they want to be 5 years from now? Helping them with their campaign planning. Helping them with new markets that they should venture into. Cross-platform paid content. And then finally, for this particular client, TV. That's huge. TV. And that's where we want to be from a career standpoint as well.
It's coming.
It's coming, that's right. That's next year. That'll be in next year's case study. So finally, and I'm not going to read through all of these, there's lots of words up here, but the point is significant results. This is a client that has Quero on retainer. It's a multi-million-dollar contract every year. I will tell you the last 2 years, legal has not even negotiated rates with us. We are bringing value, and you can see the value that's here. Some of the most important are there at the top. 250% increase in active registered customer base, a 225% increase in content subscriptions, And I really like this one, 300% increase in email campaign response rates. It's really important. Really important. It's really significant. So a couple of takeaways that Dan and I want to leave you with tonight. We've obviously covered a lot of material, both from a technology and marketing standpoint. But a couple of things, if you don't remember anything, try to remember these. Align your data usage with your corporate strategy. Remember, you as marketers and as sales leaders, it's not just you. It needs to be used throughout the entire organization. You need buy-in. Customer intelligence leads to significant results. Raw data, who cares? Raw data is not going to do anything for you. You have to take action on that data and make it insightful and make it intelligent for you to get results out of it. As Dan said, big data is behavioral data, not necessarily anything new, but customers in the last 2 years are providing us more data than ever. So, you need to use it. Big data is massive volumes of data that your customers are creating every day. You need to know how to deal with it, create a big data management approach, and then finally, do more with less,